The Earth was dying. The once vibrant planet, home to billions of humans, had been reduced to a shadow of its former self. Cities that once stood tall with the hopes and dreams of humanity had been leveled by relentless alien attacks. The sky, which had once been filled with clouds and sunlight, now hung heavy with smoke and dust, making it difficult to see the stars. For years, Earth had fought back against the invaders, but the odds were always against them. The alien coalition known as the Vexor Dominion had come from a distant star system with advanced technology and weapons. Their forces were too powerful, their strategies too cunning, and Earth's defenses were simply not enough. Millions of people had perished in the early battles. Families were torn apart, cities were wiped off the map, and nations crumbled under the weight of constant warfare. What remained of humanity lived in fear, hiding in underground bunkers and isolated colonies, hoping that somehow, against all odds, they could survive another day. The humans had once been a proud and resilient species, capable of great achievements. But now that same resilience was tested to its limits. The survivors had lost almost everything. Their homes, their loved ones, their hope. It felt as though the end was inevitable. With every passing day, the alien forces drew closer, and Earth seemed destined to become just another trophy in the Vexor Dominion's expanding empire. Yet, even in the darkest of times, there was a flicker of hope. It came in the form of a strange and mysterious signal that interrupted the usual flow of communication. At first, no one believed it could be real. The signal was faint, like a whisper lost in the vastness of space. It was not a message from an ally, nor was it a call for reinforcements from another human colony. It came from somewhere far beyond the reach of Earth's current alliances. No one knew where it originated, and no one knew who was behind it. But for the first time in years, there was something other than fear. The message was simple, barely more than a few words, but it was enough to catch the attention of the few surviving leaders. It read, "We are listening. You are not alone." Those words sent shockwaves through the small pockets of humanity that remained. The signal didn't provide any answers, but it offered something far more precious: hope. Could it be true? Could there be others out there who were willing to help, to stand by humanity's side in the face of annihilation? The leaders of the human resistance gathered in secret to discuss what this message might mean. Some thought it was a trick, a trap set by the Vexor Dominion to draw the last survivors into a final deadly confrontation. Others thought it was a sign of something greater, an indication that humanity's fight was not over. With little time left, the leaders agreed to investigate the signal. They had nothing to lose. They had already lost so much, and this could be their only chance at survival. The remaining fleets of human ships were mobilized, their crews unsure of what they might find. Some of the soldiers had never seen battle, too young to have fought in the early days of the war, but their spirits were strong. They knew that this might be humanity's last stand, and they would give everything to answer the call. As the human fleets ventured into the vastness of space, their hearts were heavy with uncertainty. The Vexor forces controlled most of the galaxy, their warships patrolling every corner of the known universe. Yet, for the first time in a long while, there was a glimmer of hope. The message had sparked a question in the hearts of every human left on Earth. Could someone, or something, help them? Days passed, then weeks. The humans pressed on, following the faint trail of the mysterious signal. They passed through asteroid fields, crossed barren planets, and traveled deeper into space than any human had dared to go in centuries. The sense of isolation was overwhelming. It was as though the universe was empty, with no one left to fight for or with them. And then, just when it seemed like their journey might end in vain, they found something. It wasn't a fleet or an army or even an entire planet. It was a single ship, a massive vessel unlike anything the humans had ever seen before. Its sleek design shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and its hull was made of materials that humans could not identify. The ship didn't look like a warship, nor did it resemble anything designed for conquest. It seemed peaceful, yet incredibly powerful. The humans approached cautiously, unsure of what to expect. The ship didn't respond to their initial hails. It simply floated in space, silent and still. Was this the source of the message? Could these beings be the ones to help Earth in its darkest hour? As the human ships drew closer, a signal flashed across their communication systems. It wasn't a warning or a threat. It was an invitation. The message was clear. We are here. Come aboard. For the first time in years, hope surged through the hearts of the human survivors. The final days of Earth were not the end, but the beginning of something much greater. Whatever lay ahead, humanity now had a chance to fight back. The vast expanse of space stretched before the human fleet, filled with nothing but the cold emptiness of the stars. After weeks of searching, the crew of the lead ship began to doubt. Was the mysterious signal just a glitch in their systems? Could they have been chasing a ghost? They had traveled farther than any human had before, and still there was no sign of the source. But then, just as the crew was about to lose hope, something remarkable happened. In the distance, a faint glow appeared. It wasn't the usual twinkling of a star or the reflection of a nearby planet. It was something different, something far more extraordinary. As they drew closer, the glow grew brighter, and the massive shape of a ship slowly emerged from the darkness. The ship was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Its sleek, smooth design shimmered in the void, and its size was beyond comprehension. It was larger than any warship in the human fleet, but it lacked the familiar military appearance. There were no weapons visible, no large cannons or turrets. Instead, the ship seemed to radiate a peaceful yet powerful energy, almost as if it was alive in some way. The human fleet approached cautiously, sending out hails and requests for communication. At first, there was no response, only the quiet hum of distant systems. The silence was deafening. The humans had no idea who, or what, was aboard the mysterious vessel. For all they knew, it could be a trap. A small part of the crew began to doubt whether they had made the right decision. Should they turn back? But their commander, Captain Amelia Walker, wasn't one to retreat. She had seen too much loss, too much destruction, to turn away now. "We are humanity's last hope," she said, her voice steady and confident. "We will find out who is out there and whether they can help us." With that, the human ships continued their approach, and the massive vessel began to respond. Slowly, almost as if it was waiting for them, a series of energy beams shot out from the alien ship, forming a path in space. It was as though the ship was inviting them in, offering a safe route to dock. The humans followed the trail, unsure of what awaited them, but unwilling to turn back now. As they docked, the humans watched in awe. The alien ship's exterior was not metal or plastic, but something organic, almost living in its appearance. Its surface shifted and rippled as if it were made of some kind of biomaterial, and strange symbols adorned its walls. No one could identify the markings. They were alien, foreign, and completely incomprehensible to human eyes. Once docked, a shuttle was sent from the alien ship to greet them. The shuttle's design was equally strange, with smooth, rounded edges and a soft glow emanating from its body. As it landed, the crew watched in anticipation. The door of the shuttle opened slowly, and a figure stepped out. At first, the humans froze, unsure of what to expect. The being before them was humanoid in shape, but unlike any human they had ever seen. Its skin shimmered with a faint light, and its eyes glowed with a soft, calming blue. The figure stood tall and regal, its posture graceful and dignified. It wore a cloak made of an unknown fabric, flowing with movement as if caught in an invisible breeze. The being's presence felt both alien and familiar, as though it came from a place far beyond the human understanding. Yet there was an unmistakable warmth about it. The alien being spoke, its voice clear and calm, though it wasn't in any language the humans recognized. To their surprise, the words were immediately translated into their own tongue by an unknown device within the ship. "Welcome," the being said, its tone serene. We have been waiting for you." The crew exchanged confused glances. "Who are you?" Captain Walker asked, stepping forward cautiously. The beam tilted its head slightly, as if considering the question. "We are the Celestians," it replied. "We come from a distant galaxy, one beyond your current reach. Our mission is to aid those who are in need. We received your signal, and we have come to offer our assistance." The crew was speechless. The message from the Celestians was both surprising and overwhelming. How had they known about Earth's plight? How had they been listening when the rest of the universe had turned a blind eye to humanity's suffering? And yet there they were, offering a chance at salvation. "What do you want in return?" Captain Walker asked, her voice steady but laced with skepticism. Nothing in the universe ever came without a price, and humanity had learned it the hard way. The Celestian leader smiled gently, almost as if the question amused them. "We seek nothing but peace," they said. "We have seen the devastation that your people have suffered. We wish to help you restore your world and defend your home against those who would see it destroyed." Captain Walker hesitated, her mind racing. Could it be true? Could these beings really be trusted? Earth had been betrayed before, and it would not be an easy decision to place all their hopes in the hands of an unknown species. But then, as if sensing her hesitation, the Celestian continued, "We understand your doubt. Trust is not given freely, and we do not expect you to trust us immediately. However, we offer you the resources, knowledge, and technology to stand against the Vexor Dominion. Together, we can end this war." Captain Walker looked to her crew, who were all watching her intently. The fate of Earth, the fate of humanity, rested on her decision. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "We accept your offer," she said, "but we will not rest until we know that your intentions are true." The Celestian nodded, a look of respect in its eyes. "Then together, we shall build a new future for your people." The decision was made. Humanity had found its first ally in the stars, and with that, a new chapter in the fight for survival began. The human fleet prepared to join the Celestians, knowing that their struggle was far from over, but for the first time in years, they had something they hadn't had in a long while: hope. The decision had been made, and now humanity stood at a crossroads. After years of fighting a losing battle, Captain Amelia Walker and her crew had placed their trust in the Celestians, the mysterious beings who had come to their aid. The humans could only wonder what lay ahead, but there was no turning back. The Celestians had offered their technology, their knowledge, and their guidance, but it was clear that humanity would not simply be given victory. They would have to fight for it, to rise once more from the ashes of their ruined world. As the human fleet began to integrate with the Celestians' advanced technology, there was a palpable sense of excitement and fear in the air. Humanity's military leaders, once scattered and broken, now came together to form a unified command. The Celestians had offered them a new fleet of ships, equipped with energy shields and weapons that were unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Yet, despite the technological marvels at their disposal, the soldiers knew that it was their own will to fight that would make the difference. The Celestians had shown them the power of unity, but humanity needed more than just tools of war. They needed the strength of their spirit, and that strength had been sorely tested. The survivors of Earth had seen the fall of their cities, the loss of their loved ones, and the endless horrors of war. Yet, even in the darkest moments, they had never given up. Humanity had always fought, always found a way to survive. Now, they would fight again, but this time, they would fight as one. Captain Walker addressed her newly formed fleet in a speech that would be remembered for generations to come. Standing on the bridge of the flagship, she gazed out at the vastness of space, knowing that the battle ahead would determine the fate of Earth and all its people. "This is not just a battle for our survival," she said, her voice strong and clear. "This is a battle for our future. We will not bow to the Vexor Dominion, and we will not be crushed by their overwhelming force. We are human, and we have always found a way to overcome the impossible. Today, we stand together, united in a way we never have before." We will show the universe that humanity is not to be underestimated. We will fight with everything we have, and we will win." Her words rang out across the fleet, sparking a renewed sense of determination among the men and women who had already sacrificed so much. The human soldiers, now trained in the advanced Celestian technology, stood ready. They knew the challenges they would face in the coming battles, but they also knew that they were not alone. The Celestians stood with them, and together they would strike back at the heart of the Vexor Dominion. The first wave of attacks came quickly. The Vexor Dominion, unaware of the alliance between the Celestians and humanity, had no idea what they were about to face. Their ships, vast and intimidating, moved toward Earth with the intent to finish what they had started, completely annihilating the last human resistance. But what they didn't expect was the fury of a united humanity. Human ships, now equipped with Celestian energy weapons, clashed with the Vexor forces in a battle unlike any before. The humans fought with a ferocity that surprised the invaders. They had fought in the shadows for so long, always on the defensive, always retreating. But now, with the support of the Celestians and their advanced technology, they fought back. They launched surprise attacks, using the newly acquired shields to block incoming fire and retaliate with devastating force. The Vexor Dominion, which had once seemed invincible, began to falter. Their massive warships were damaged, their communication lines were broken, and their leadership began to crumble. The human fleet had struck a blow that the Vexor had not anticipated, and it sent shockwaves through their ranks. For the first time, the invaders found themselves on the defensive. But the war was far from over. The Vexor Dominion regrouped quickly, bringing in reinforcements from their vast empire. They were not a species known to surrender easily, and they retaliated with all the might they could muster. Massive battles took place in the vacuum of space, with both sides exchanging blows that could be felt across entire star systems. Still, the humans fought on. They had found something in themselves that they hadn't realized was there, a burning determination to protect their home, their people, and their future. Every battle they won, every Vexor ship they destroyed, only made them stronger. They were no longer just defending Earth. They were defending everything they had ever known, everything they had ever loved. As the war continued, the human resistance began to spread beyond Earth. Other human colonies, once thought lost to the Vexor Dominion, now rallied to the cause. The message was clear. Humanity would not be silenced. With the Celestians' help, they began to push the invaders back, reclaiming lost worlds one by one. The Vexor Dominion, once a powerful and unified force, began to fracture. Their military might was still formidable, but the human spirit had proven stronger than they could have imagined. Captain Walker and her fleet were at the forefront of this new wave of resistance. Every victory, every planet retaken, brought humanity closer to the final goal, to defeat the Vexor Dominion once and for all. And with each victory, the people of Earth began to believe, truly believe, that they could win this war. But the Vexor Dominion would not give up easily. They would strike back, harder than ever. The battle for Earth was far from over, but one thing was certain. Humanity had found its strength again. No matter how impossible the odds, the human race would never stop fighting. They had answered the call, and they would keep answering it, until victory was theirs. The war had intensified. Each passing day brought humanity closer to victory, but the cost was becoming painfully clear. Every battle, every skirmish with the Vexor Dominion, left scars that would take generations to heal. The initial excitement of striking back at the invaders had faded, replaced by the grim reality of war. Soldiers, both human and Celestian, fought bravely on the front lines. But they were tired. The constant pressure, the endless battles, and the cold emptiness of space were beginning to take their toll. Captain Amelia Walker paced the command deck of the flagship, her face etched with concern. She had seen her crew endure so much already, and now the weight of leadership seemed heavier than ever. The Vexor Dominion wasn't going to back down. They were relentless, and their fleet was growing by the day. The humans had gained some ground, but the war had reached a critical point. If they didn't act fast, Earth could still fall. The Celestians, though powerful, were not immune to the strains of battle. While their technology was superior in many ways, they too had their limits. Their ships, though advanced, were not designed for the constant wear of war. As the battles dragged on, even their resources began to dwindle. They had given humanity the tools to fight back, but it was clear that it would take more than technology to win this war. It would take unity, determination, and a willingness to sacrifice everything. As Walker stood at the front of the command deck, a soft beep from her console interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see a message flashing across the screen, a transmission from one of the human colonies on the Outer Rim. Her heart sank as she read the urgent report. The Vexor Dominion had launched a full-scale invasion of the outer colonies, and the humans there were barely holding on. The message warned of overwhelming forces and a need for immediate reinforcements. "We can't afford to lose the outer colonies," Walker muttered under her breath. If those colonies fell, humanity's ability to fight the Vexor would be severely crippled. The outer colonies were the last line of defense before the Vexor reached Earth itself. If they were lost, the Vexor Dominion would be able to attack Earth from all sides. Walker turned to her officers. "Prepare the fleet. We're going to reinforce the outer colonies." The decision was made, and the fleet, already battle-worn, set its course for the Outer Rim. The journey was long, and the fleet was spread thin. As they traveled, Walker couldn't help but feel the weight of the choices ahead. If they couldn't hold the outer colonies, Earth's survival would be in jeopardy. And if they did manage to hold the line, it was unclear how much longer the Celestians could keep fighting. Their technology could only stretch so far, and the Vexor Dominion seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. As the human fleet arrived at the outer colonies, they found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. The Vexor Dominion had brought in their elite forces, soldiers specifically trained for infiltration and sabotage. These soldiers were not just skilled in combat. They were experts at breaking down the morale of their enemies. They used fear, psychological warfare, and deception to weaken the resolve of their opponents. Human forces clashed with the Vexor elite, and the result was devastating. The outer colonies were being torn apart. Human ships were scattered, and many colonies fell within hours of the initial attack. Walker watched helplessly as the battle raged on, knowing that their position was growing more and more desperate by the minute. It was during one of the worst moments of the battle that a new threat emerged. The Vexor had unveiled a terrifying new weapon, an enormous warship, unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The ship was covered in a dark, almost organic-looking material, and it radiated an energy that seemed to disrupt all communications and weapons systems around it. The ship was clearly designed to break through the strongest defenses and cause as much chaos as possible. The humans tried to retaliate, but their weapons had little effect on the Vexor warship. The shields were too strong, and the ship's weaponry was devastating. It launched energy blasts that wiped out entire fleets in a single strike. The human ships were no match for its power, and many were destroyed before they could even react. "We need to stop that ship," Captain Walker shouted to her crew. But as the battle raged on, it became clear that the warship was more than just a physical threat. It was a psychological weapon as well. The Vexor used it to strike fear into the hearts of the human soldiers. The humans had fought hard, but it seemed like this new weapon would be the end of their resistance. The Celestians, too, were struggling. Their advanced ships could not get close enough to disable the warship, and they were forced to retreat, regrouping far from the front lines. It became clear to Walker that the war was taking a darker turn. They had not just been fighting the Vexor Dominion. They had been fighting their own fears, their own doubts, and their own sense of what was possible. "Get me the Celestian commander," Walker ordered. "We need to know how we can stop this ship. We need a plan. Fast." The Celestians had no easy answers. Their advanced technology had never been designed to counter such a weapon. But as the battle raged on, the Celestian commander, An ancient being named Sorrel had an idea. He suggested that the humans take a more unconventional approach, an approach that involved using their own ingenuity and resourcefulness, rather than relying solely on advanced technology. Humans are capable of more than just using weapons, Sorrel said. You are able to think in ways that no other species can. It is your greatest strength. With that, Walker gathered her officers and began to formulate a plan. They would use their knowledge of the Vexar's weaknesses to create a trap, luring the warship into a vulnerable position where they could strike it with everything they had. It was a risky plan, but in this dark hour, they had no other choice. As the humans prepared for their final push against the Vexar warship, they knew that the fate of the outer colonies, and perhaps Earth itself, was on the line. The next few hours would determine whether humanity could continue to fight, or whether the darkness would swallow them whole. The situation had never been more dire. The Vexar warship, an imposing force that had crushed everything in its path, loomed over the outer colonies like a shadow of doom. Its power was unmatched, and it had made a terrifying statement. Humanity was on the edge of extinction. The Celestians had done all they could, but it was clear that the fight was far from over. Now it was up to humanity itself to find a way to survive. Captain Amelia Walker stood on the command deck, staring at the holographic map in front of her. The plan had been set. Every ship, every soldier, every piece of technology was going to be used in a desperate attempt to bring down the Vexar warship. But as the time approached for the final assault, doubt crept into her mind. Could they really do this? Could humanity, on the brink of collapse, defeat an enemy so powerful, so relentless? We have no choice but to try, Walker said, turning to her officers. This is our moment. We fight, or we fall. Her officers nodded in agreement. There was no turning back now. The outer colonies were nearly gone, and Earth was next in line. This was the final stand. If the warship wasn't stopped, humanity's hope would be extinguished forever. The plan, though risky, had a chance. The idea was simple. Use their smaller ships to lure the massive warship into a position where it could be struck with everything they had. The Vexar had underestimated the humans before, and they were counting on it happening again. The key to the plan was one small, but crucial element: human creativity. It wasn't just about raw power or advanced technology. The humans would need to outthink the Vexar, using their knowledge of the warship's weaknesses and their own resourcefulness. Captain Walker's heart raced as the final preparations began. The fleet was positioned, ready to move. The smaller, faster ships were in place, each one ready to play its part in the dangerous game. Walker had been in countless battles, but this one felt different. It wasn't just about winning. It was about surviving. If they failed, everything would be lost. All ships, prepare for the final push, Walker ordered, her voice steady but filled with determination. This is it. We fight with everything we've got. As the human fleet advanced toward the Vexar warship, they could see it clearly now. The enormous vessel hung in space like a dark monolith, its energy radiating in every direction. The energy pulses it fired were destructive enough to wipe out entire fleets with a single shot. There was no way to approach it head-on, not with the overwhelming firepower it possessed. We need to get closer, Walker said, analyzing the ship's movements. It's not just about dodging its attacks. We need to draw it in, lure it into a trap. The smaller ships darted forward, weaving in and out of the warship's targeting range, creating chaos. The Vexar's warship fired relentlessly, its powerful energy blasts causing massive explosions in space. But the human ships, nimble and quick, managed to stay just out of reach, leading the warship deeper into a position where the Vexar would be vulnerable. Now move in, Walker commanded. It's time to make our stand. The larger human ships, along with the Celestians, moved into position. They had carefully studied the warship's design and discovered that its power source, the heart of the ship, was protected by a weak spot, an area where its energy shields were not as strong as the rest of the ship. If they could hit it with everything they had, they might just bring the warship down. The battle was chaos. Energy blasts lit up the black void of space as both sides collided in a flurry of destruction. The Vexar warship fired at will, but the humans and Celestians pressed forward with everything they had. Every ship, every soldier was fighting not just for their lives, but for the future of their people. Walker's heart pounded as her flagship moved into position. "Target that weak spot," she ordered. The human and Celestian ships aligned their weapons, focusing all their firepower on the vulnerable section of the warship. For a moment, the fleet hesitated, as if unsure whether they could land a successful strike. Then, all at once, the weapons fired. A barrage of energy blasts shot toward the warship, hitting its weak spot with incredible force. The Vexar ship groaned as the energy pulses slammed into it, and for a moment, it seemed like the warship might hold. But then, a massive explosion erupted from the core of the ship, sending shockwaves through the surrounding space. "We've done it," someone shouted from the control room. The explosion was only the beginning. The warship began to break apart, its once solid structure crumbling under the force of the blast. The energy pulses it had been firing grew erratic, causing more explosions within the ship. The Vexar warship was no longer a threat. But the battle wasn't over. There were still Vexar ships in the area, and the human fleet had sustained heavy damage. Walker knew this victory wouldn't end the war. The Vexar would come back, and the next battle would be even harder. Yet, in this moment, humanity had proven something. They had faced an impossible enemy, an enemy with power beyond their understanding, and they had found a way to strike it down. As the human fleet began to regroup, Walker looked out across the battlefield. The stars in the distance seemed to shine brighter, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a flicker of hope. "Victory is ours, but the war is not over," she said softly. "We have one more fight left in us. Together, we will finish what we've started." Her words rang true, for the battle had shown humanity's strength, its determination to survive, to fight for its future, no matter the odds. The Vexar Dominion had been dealt a major blow, but there was still much to do. The war would continue, but now, humanity was ready. They had proven that they could defeat the impossible, and they would keep fighting until Earth was safe once again. The victory over the Vexar warship had sent a ripple through the enemy's ranks. For the first time, they were forced to pause and reassess. The humans had struck a blow, a symbol of their resilience, but that victory came at a heavy cost. As the human fleet limped back to their main command post, the damage was clear. Ships were battered, morale was strained, and many lives had been lost. Yet, the humans held their ground, even as the shadow of vengeance loomed over them. Captain Amelia Walker stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Resolute, staring out at the stars. The recent battle had been a triumph, but it had also exposed a weakness. While they had successfully taken down the Vexar warship, they had only scratched the surface of their enemy's power. The Vexar Dominion was vast, and they would not let such a defeat go unanswered. Walker knew that the hardest part of the war was yet to come. "We've won this round, but the Vexar will come back stronger," Walker said, speaking more to herself than to the officers around her. "They're not the kind of enemies who forgive and forget. They're coming for us." Her words hung heavy in the air. The war was far from over. The Vexar Dominion was relentless, and they were not going to let one defeat stop them. Walker's team understood this, and they knew the risks. Every day, the enemy regrouped, learning from their losses and preparing for the next phase of the war. As the fleet headed back to Earth, the human colonies held their breath. News of the victory spread quickly, but so did rumors of what the Vexar were preparing. The Vexar knew their defeat was not a simple mistake. They would make sure humanity paid for it. The fear of a counterattack began to stir throughout the colonies, but no one was ready to give up. Even in the face of an impending storm, there was a sense of unity. The humans would not go down without a fight. Weeks passed, and the human fleet made repairs. The Celestians remained by their side, offering what help they could, but even they were beginning to show signs of exhaustion. The once immense power of the Celestian ships was starting to fade, and their energy reserves were dangerously low. It became clear that the Alliance, though strong, was facing a growing challenge. "Captain, we've detected a large fleet moving toward Earth," reported one of the officers from the communications station. "The Vexor are gathering their forces. They're preparing for a final strike." The tension in the room grew thick as Walker absorbed the news. She knew the Vexor would not come lightly. They had learned from their previous defeat. The Vexor would likely deploy a new weapon, something even more devastating, in order to finish what they had started. This would be the ultimate test. The fate of humanity was once again on the line. "We're not going to back down," Walker said, her voice firm. "We've fought too hard to let them take what we've rebuilt. This time, we stand together, or we fall together." The fleet quickly went to work, preparing for the fight of their lives. The soldiers, the engineers, the scientists, everyone had a part to play. It was no longer just a matter of surviving. It was about protecting everything humanity had left. The Celestians worked tirelessly to augment the human ships, giving them the last of their energy reserves to bolster their defenses and weapons. The time for waiting was over. The Vexor were coming, and humanity would meet them head-on. As the Vexor fleet drew closer, the humans launched their own counteroffensive. The outer defenses around Earth were fortified with the help of the Celestians, but it was clear that the enemy's fleet was vast, far larger than anything humanity had faced before. The humans had no illusions. The Vexor were bringing their full might, and this battle could be the last. "All ships, prepare for battle," Captain Walker ordered, standing tall on the command deck. "Today we fight with everything we have. The future of Earth, of humanity, depends on this moment." The fleet moved into position, and the battle began. The Vexor fleet descended upon Earth like a dark storm, massive ships casting shadows over the human defenses. Their warships, even larger than the one humanity had previously destroyed, moved with terrifying precision. This time, the Vexor were organized, calculating. They knew where to strike, where to hit hardest. Energy blasts filled the air as both sides exchanged fire. The human fleet fought valiantly, but the Vexor's firepower was overwhelming. Ships exploded in bursts of light as energy blasts ripped through their shields and hulls. It was a brutal clash, one where every ship and every soldier counted. "We can't hold them off for much longer," one of Walker's officers said urgently. "The Vexor are pushing forward with full force." Walker clenched her fists. They were losing ground. The human ships were taking heavy damage, and Earth's defenses were starting to fail. There was no time for hesitation. It was now or never. "Initiate the second phase of the plan," Walker commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. This was the final part of the plan, the one humanity had been saving for a moment just like this. If they could pull it off, it might be the only chance they had to turn the tide of the battle. The humans had developed a new weapon, an experimental device capable of generating an energy pulse strong enough to disrupt the Vexor fleet's communications and weapon systems. It was a long shot, but it was their only hope. The device was deployed from the flagship. As it powered up, a wave of energy rippled through space, and for a moment, everything went silent. The Vexor ships faltered. Their fire stopped, their communications cut off. For the first time in this battle, the humans had the upper hand. "Now, attack," Walker shouted. With the Vexor temporarily crippled, the human fleet launched a coordinated assault, hitting the Vexor where they were most vulnerable. It was a risky move, but it paid off. The Vexor ships began to fall back, their forces in disarray. For the first time in weeks, humanity had hope again. They had not only survived, they had pushed back the Vexor. But Walker knew this was only a temporary victory. The Vexor would regroup and come again, but humanity would be ready. They had fought for their survival, and they would continue to fight. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven one thing: they would never give up. The battle had been fierce, the stakes higher than ever, but humanity had finally won a decisive victory. The Vexor fleet had retreated, their attempts to invade Earth thwarted, but the cost of this triumph was clear. The human fleet had taken significant damage, and many lives had been lost in the chaos. The outer colonies, though spared for the moment, still bore the scars of war. Yet, amidst the destruction and the smoke of battle, a flicker of hope began to shine brighter than ever before. Captain Amelia Walker stood at the window of her flagship, gazing out at the stars. Earth was safe. For now. The Vexor had retreated, but Walker knew it wasn't the end. This victory had been crucial, but it had only slowed the Vexor down. They would come again. The real test lay ahead. Humanity's ability to rebuild, to strengthen its defenses, and to unite against a threat that was determined to wipe them out. "Captain," said her communications officer, pulling her from her thoughts, "we've received a message from the Celestians." Walker turned to face him, her mind focused. She had worked closely with the Celestians throughout the war, and their alliance had been the key to humanity's survival. Their advanced technology and wisdom had turned the tide of the battle. But she knew that they, too, were growing tired. The Celestians had given everything they had to help humanity fight, but their resources were now exhausted. The officer activated the holographic display, and Sorrel, the Celestian commander, appeared before them. His ancient features were tired, his eyes filled with both wisdom and sorrow. "Captain Walker," Sorrel began, his voice calm but heavy with the weight of the situation. "Humanity has proven itself in ways we never anticipated. Your strength, your courage, your ability to adapt, it has been remarkable. But I must tell you this, the Vexor Dominion is not simply a military force. It is a civilization that seeks to dominate all life, to bend the universe to its will. They will not stop. They will rebuild, and they will return with even more force." Walker listened carefully. She had known the fight wasn't over, but hearing it from Sorrel made it all the more real. The Celestians had seen countless civilizations fall under the Vexor's grip. They were a force of nature, relentless and unforgiving. But the Celestians had also seen something else in humanity, a strength that was unique. "We understand, Sorrel," Walker said, her voice steady. "But we won't give up. We've already shown the Vexor what we're capable of. We'll rebuild our forces, strengthen our defenses, and find new ways to fight back. We won't let them take everything we've worked for." Sorrel nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "I believe you, Captain. Your people have something the Vexor do not. Hope. You have the ability to inspire each other, to unite in the face of overwhelming odds. It is something we Celestians have long admired. We will continue to support you, but this time, the fight must be yours. The future of your people depends on it." As the communication ended, Walker felt a renewed sense of determination. The Celestians had been right. This fight was now humanity's to win or lose. The victory against the Vexor had given them a brief respite, but the real battle for survival was just beginning. The next few weeks were spent rebuilding. The human fleet, battered but not broken, began the painstaking process of repairing ships and restoring communication networks. The outer colonies, which had been spared from total destruction, started to rebuild their infrastructures. The Celestians continued to provide valuable guidance, but now it was clear humanity had to rely on its own ingenuity and strength. Walker met with her officers regularly, discussing plans to further fortify Earth and its defenses. New technologies were developed to enhance the strength of human ships, and scientific teams worked around the clock to develop weapons that could counter the Vexor's devastating tactics. Humanity was learning from its past mistakes, and with each day, they grew stronger. But there was one thing that stood out more than anything else: the human spirit. It was something that the Vexor had never anticipated. The humans did not give up. They did not bow to fear or despair. Even in the darkest moments of the war, when all seemed lost, the people of Earth had fought on with a fierce determination. It was this resilience that gave Walker hope. Months passed, and the human fleet was ready. New ships had been built, stronger than ever, and their weapons were now more powerful than anything they had used before. Earth's defenses were fortified, and the outer colonies were prepared for whatever came next. But despite the preparations, the humans knew one thing for certain: the Vexor would return. And when they did, humanity would be ready. Captain Walker stood once again on the bridge of the Resolute, looking out at the vast expanse of space. The stars seemed to shimmer with possibility. Humanity had faced the unimaginable and survived. The Vexor had underestimated them, but they would not make that mistake again. "We're ready," Walker said softly, her gaze fixed on the stars. "When the Vexor come again, we will fight with everything we have. We will protect Earth, protect our future. Together, we can defeat them." Her officers nodded, a renewed sense of purpose filling the room. They had fought for survival once. Now they would fight for the future of humanity. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven that it would never surrender. As the human fleet stood ready, the universe stretched out before them. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity would always rise, no matter the odds. The dawn of a new hope had arrived, and the Vexor would soon learn that Earth was a force that would never be easily conquered.